Okay, we're ready for our notes on our third and final macronutrient, and that macronutrient is fats. So we're going to do some notes just similar to what we did with proteins. We're going to just start with kind of how they're made up, okay? So fats are also called lipids, okay? Lipids. Fats are composed of various fatty acids. Fats are composed of various fatty acids, which contain long chains of carbon and hydrogen. Fats are composed of various fatty acids, which contain long chains of carbon and hydrogen. So the fat itself would not be considered a polymer. We've got kind of a polar head, and then we have long chains kind of dangling from that. And those chains are made out of carbon and hydrogen. But the fats usually, I don't think those are considered to be polymers. It's not really a repeating unit that makes this big long chain. And so it's kind of more complicated structure than that, and it's not a polymer. Okay. All fats give us 9 calories per gram that we eat. 9 calories per gram that we eat. So much more calorie dense than our proteins and our carbohydrates, which if you remember, those will give us 4 calories each per gram, but fats give us 9 calories per gram that we eat. They are not as easily digested. They are not as easily digested to get energy as carbohydrates. They are not as easily digested to get energy as carbohydrates, but they are much easier than proteins. But they are much easier than proteins. So again, the one that's easiest to get energy from, carbohydrates, that is our body's #1 choice for energy. Fats are not as easy as carbohydrates, but they're easier than proteins. So that's our #2 choice for energy. And then proteins are very hard to use for energy. They're easy to break down for other things for use, like, getting amino acids, but we don't use them for energy until we need to in an emergency. That's our last choice, okay? All right, fats are our body's second choice, which I just said, for energy, and are used as soon as the sugars in your bloodstream are depleted. They are used as soon as the sugars in your bloodstream are depleted. If you do a lot of energy on how we start using fats when we're exercising, you'll see that at the start of an exercise regimen, you're using blood sugar. You're not utilizing fats. After you've been going for a little while, your blood sugar has dropped. That's when you start using fats for energy. So that's when you start burning the fat that's in your body, okay? But if you are one of those people who has a sports drink at your practice or while you're working out, okay, drinking that keeps your blood sugar high, and your body's going to continue to use sugars for energy because of that sports drink. It is not going to switch over to the fat storages in your body. And that is, that's where some people come into a little problem of trying to lose weight, trying to lose body fat, is they're continually adding sugar to their system, and the body just never even starts utilizing the fat for energy. But as soon as the bloodstream sugars are depleted, that's about 20 minutes into a workout. Again, if you're not replacing that sugar with a sports drink, it's about 20 minutes into a workout where your blood sugar has dropped enough that your body starts to pull fat. All right. D, we're going to talk about 3 categories of fats. Now, we didn't have these in that flow chart at the beginning. We had 2 categories of fats, I believe, but we're going to talk about 3 categories and how one of them actually falls into another one. Okay, so there are 3 categories of fats. First, saturated fats. Saturated fats. Okay, saturated fats are considered unhealthy fats. Okay. Everything in moderation. It is important to have a little bit of that, but or having a little bit of that is not super harmful. I wouldn't say it's important to get some of that, but they are the unhealthy of the types of fats. Okay, they lead to clogging of the arteries. Lead to clogging of the arteries if overeaten. If they're overeaten. These are found in animal products. Okay, and so we're going to list a few of those just to make sure that we all understand what that means. Cheese, milk, yogurt, meat, eggs. Okay, so found in animal products. They can be found in some plant products. Coconut oil is an example, and palm oil is another example. And the thing that all of these have in common is they are solid at room temperature. They're solid at room temperature. Now you might be like, well, you just said milk. How does milk have solid fat at room temperature? Well, if you've ever actually milked an animal and then you let that milk sit, the fat separates to the top. And if you separate that off and then drain it, you will end up having some solid pieces of fat as you let that cool. Okay, but coconut oil, it's a solid, it melts really easily. Palm oil, same thing, but these are fats that are typically solid at room temperature. Okay. All right, second category is unsaturated fats. These are the healthy fats. They do not clog arteries. They are found in plant products. Found in plant products. So up here, we had a couple plant products. Those ones are saturated. They're high in saturated fat. But this list is going to be ones that are high in unsaturated fat. Okay, so vegetable oil, olive oil, avocado oil, peanut oil. Bet you can see a pattern there. They can be found in some animal products. Can anybody think of an oil that is an animal oil instead of a plant oil? So if you're thinking fish oil, that's exactly where I was trying to lead you. Okay, so fish oil is a really good example of an animal fat that is actually unsaturated. Okay, these are all liquid at room temperature. These are liquid at room temperature. Okay, third category, trans fats. Not sure if any of you have heard of trans fats before. These were particularly coming into use kind of in my childhood, and then we started to realize they're kind of dangerous, and people started paying attention to whether there was trans fats in their food, and if there were, they wouldn't buy that food, they would buy something different. And so now they're really not used anymore, but there are there are probably still trans fats out there, especially in other countries where maybe they don't have the regulations that we have. But trans fats, These are very unhealthy fats. The worst type for arteries. Very unhealthy fats, worst type for arteries. They are not found in nature, but are synthesized using unsaturated fats. They're synthesized using unsaturated fats. So they are made in a laboratory by human beings, and we start off with unsaturated fats and transform them into trans fats. They are solid at room temperature. Okay, remember that is why they're bad for us, because they can start forming those clogs because of their physical state. Even though they are made from fats that were liquid at room temperature. So trans fats are actually a type of unsaturated fat, but they're a type of unsaturated fat that we've manipulated in the lab to make them act like a saturated fat. Okay, so they do actually fall under the category of unsaturated fats, but they are a very unhealthy version of our unsaturated fats. Okay, let's talk about where we get our fats, okay? Other than that list above, okay? Our bodies, or why we need these, our bodies must consume fats. Our bodies must consume fats to get, here's a word that we should recognize, essential fatty acids. Essential. Do we remember what that word means? Our bodies must consume fats to get essential fatty acids. That word essential means our body cannot make this thing from scratch. So essential fatty acids are fatty acids, which are components that are part of fat that we do need in order to do certain things in our bodies, which we're going to talk about here soon. And essential fatty acids are ones that we cannot make from scratch. So we have to make those, we have to get those, excuse me, by eating fats in our diets, okay? So what do we use these fats for? We need these fatty acids for brain development. We need these fatty acids for brain development, controlling inflammation, so that's swelling. If you go for a run and you haven't been running in 8 months, your muscles are going to start to swell because that is a stimulus that you're not used to, and your muscles are going to react to that. That's called inflammation, and it makes you sore, makes you hurt. Okay, controlling inflammation largely includes fatty acids as part of that process, so we need those in our diets. Apparently inflammation has 2 M's, sorry for misspelling that. And blood clotting. Blood clotting. If we can't make blood clots if we don't have the right combination of materials, and fatty acids are a part of that. We need fats, but not too many saturated fats. And no trans fats. Okay, so don't be too concerned about eating fats in your diet. Your body needs them. You do. If you didn't have any fat in your diet and you went like this, if you didn't have any body fat and you went like this, all of your skin would crack open on every single knuckle. Okay, so we do need fats in our diets. We need it for brain development, inflammation, blood clotting, and the elasticity of our skin. So if we don't have enough fats in our diets, we're going to be in trouble. Okay, so don't be too concerned about eating fat. Just pay attention to what kinds you're eating, because unsaturated fats are definitely better for your system. Saturated fats, not as good, but in moderation, they're okay. Trans fats, pretty dangerous. Stay away from those, okay? All right, that's the end of our lecture on fats. We've now covered all of our macronutrients. We will be doing micronutrients next, and I hope you enjoy that. We'll see you in class.